Right, well, that music means we're back. We're back again. We've had a fairly long break. So happy New Year, everybody. Happy 2022. We've had, we had a good break. We finished up just before Christmas. We managed to get together Christmas. I sort of got my brother. I don't think we had a drink with Brew. We had a drink maybe virtually. But anyway, it's good to be back on the airwaves. So we thought we'd kick off this episode 29 with a quick look back at 2021 and a thoughts for the 2022, and we might do hopefully in a slightly better year. So we've called it glancing forward and glancing back on beery adventures. So let's get rid of this lovely music. We'll make a start. So I just thought I'd put a few little pictures up for you guys of what we did this year. We get rid of our face. Oh, we're at the bottom there. So
I've forgotten about
Merry highlights. Yes, the Merry England in the Huddersfield downpour. That's you and Nick there outside the Rat and Ratchet in Huddersfield on that same trip. And then we've got Nick outside the kind of remake of the Cooper's Tavern, which is in Burton, but this one's actually in Stone. I mean, that was another wet day, wasn't it, Nick, when we went to Stone?
Not as bad as
that was my solo one in the middle there. That's my black currant omnipollo soft serve Buxton Brewery ice creamy beery thing that you lot were golfing at. I've had plenty then. There's that wonderful corner there in the Knaresborough, in the what's that one called, Bruce? When that Crosskeys, and that was a good day. And that was that the same day on our Roosters visit? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And there was the picture of Nick and Bruce in Roosters there, and then I think my favourite one was where we're on College Green there, aren't we? Which was kind of when it was still in lockdown, wasn't it? When we, I think that was, was that kind of May? Was that May 21? A bit late. Yeah, it was Whit Bank Holiday. It was early June, so we might touch on that one again. So that was pretty good. And we've got to say, happy first birthday to the Malt Travel podcast, because we are over a year old now, which is quite scary, really. In that we started doing this in January of 2021 when we were so peed off at being locked down once again. And we've gone through it. So that was the episode we did. We did Beer Trick Philosophers. Remember all those days back, which feels a long time ago. And we were kind of thinking about what we might do on podcasts. It's quite scary. It's scary when you look at them buggers. That's the 29 podcasts or 28 podcasts that we've done, and it's quite a range of trips. We started off. All the early ones were all in lockdown, weren't they? So in those early ones, we were just kind of stuck at home trying to think about where we'd go on visits and things. So we did York, we did Hull, we did Transpennine Rail Trail, we did Leeds. We were still kind of working around. So Nick, you did labels, logos, reflections in episode 8. Then we did Whitby, North Yorkshire Moors. We did Easter reflections. We carried on with York. We did Sheffield. We all chose our 3 pubs in London. I know next week London might catch up. And then we in June did one of our first live recordings where we did. It was a 2-day job, that wasn't it? I think that was a good highlight where we met up in York and then we went to Knaresborough. We then did, Nick and Bruce did one on the northeast and looked at Newcastle. We then did one in the lakes. We never finished that off actually, Bruce, because you've still got to do your. That was that mad idea I had about Prince William doing us a favour and it was helicopter. We then did a Whitby again. We did Whitby in episode 20. You then gave us a tour around the Isle of Wight and other southern ports. I did something similar for Jersey. Nick then did again. He was back in London, so he did 9 pints in London. You guys then went on the Yorkshire Rhubarb beer tour around Wakefield and places. I reported back on micros in Macclesfield. We then did pubs of Christmas past and present. We then did another live recording, our Christmas bimble on the 3 Men on a Train on the Real Ale Trail, which was a good day out. And then me and Nick, did one in Stowe just before Christmas, and that was it. So there's quite a lot of stuff there that we covered over the thing. So 2021 was a bit of hit and miss, wasn't it? So again, for those watching YouTube or those on the podcast, I've got one of those lateral COVID test things that says go to the pub on it, which kind of we did for some of the year. I'm definitely, I think we've all been out and about. We've all been, we didn't do dry January, we did Triannuary, and we're now into Brewery, which is sporting pubs in Feb. And I said we'll talk about some cracking pubs today, and hopefully maybe think forward to where we might want to go in this next year. Well, we're nearly into the second month already, which is very scary. I'm up to the kind of motherland next week, so hoping to catch up with Bruce and Nick at the weekend, and I'm off to Whitby, so I'm sure there'll be a few Yorkshire pints drunk over the next 7 days. And I just thought I'd give us this little one just to whet our appetite. This was the end of our session in the Roosters tap room, which we enjoyed, although as you can see there, we were about the only people in the tap room, weren't we, in the afternoon?
And we never had the Yankee. That was the only thing.
No, the Yankee wasn't on, was it? I was coming on, and we never had Yankee. I don't think I've had a pint of Yankee yet this year. And I don't know whether stupidly or encourage you all to try some of those new barrel-aged wildlife ones, which didn't quite keep us over the edge. But remember on the...
you never catch me drinking cloudy beer and stuff that's full of fruit.
If you remember...
I'll tell you about this one in a minute.
On Beam Station, after drinking all those beers in Roosters, you remember the recording went a bit wider. We all sounded like eunuchs with very high-pitched voices, which you can obviously listen back.
Right, yes. That's more strange, isn't it? Yeah.
Right, so yes, Nick, what are you on? I'm going to crack my beer open.
Right, so been down to London. Prices, my God, guys, shocking. I did manage to get to the Fitzroy Tavern. That Michael, does it ring a bell with you?
Go on, which one's that one?
Well, George Orwell was supposedly frequenting quite often, and they reckon he got his inspiration for
the Moon and the Water.
Moon and Water. So I managed to find it out down Charlotte Street, because in fact, quite coincidentally, it's about 3 minutes walk away from another Sam Smith's pub called the Bricklayers that I've always tried to be getting in, but the last 3 times I've gone to London, it's always been closed. Not because they don't have a landlord in there, but just because they have weird opening hours. So went to the Fitzroy Tavern instead, and absolutely typical little Sam Smith's pub. Walk in one door, you can't get anywhere else to the pub because it's just one little room, so you've got to go out the door, walk in another room. Went to the bar, 2 hand pumps on the bar, no cask beer on. Says the guy behind the bar, fairly quiet at that time. Little fire for you, Bruce, nice little fire there.
Oh yeah.
So you've got no bitter on them, mate? He says, no. So I said, all right, I'll have a pint of the pale ale, Indian pale ale, please then, which is one electric. Oh, he says, I've only got that in bottles. Right, okay. So I end up with a pint of Taddy Lager, £5.20 in a Sam Smith's pub. Yeah. And you go to TripAdvisor and they reckon it's one of the cheapest Sam Smith's pubs in London for a city centre. I then managed to find my way down to, where did I find my way down to? Another Sam Smith's pub. I went to the Chandos. 470 in there for a pint of Old Brewery bitter.
Wow.
Got myself in a Nicholson's and a pint of London Pride. I reckon that was about £5.75 for a pint.
Ouch.
So prices down there, guys. Went to the supermarket, and obviously up here, when I can get a pint of beer in a pub for £3.40, £3.50, then I don't really want to play £3 for a can of beer in a supermarket when I can get a bottle for £1.50. But down there, it's about the same. Not a great choice of bottle beers in those little Tesco's locals and stuff. So I found myself a can of Session IPA. This is by Cloudwater. Cloudwater must be up near Aberdeen somewhere, because that's the postcode. Little place called Ellon, Ellon. Just cracked it now. Hey, it's not so bad. Full of flavour. I say it is one of those cloudy ones.
I think you're drinking. I think you're actually drinking a brew dog beer, Nick, because they brew Cloudwater.
Is that right?
That's where their brewery is. Yeah, I think they certainly can. Anyway, it's all right.
Fair enough, but you see, down in London, if I'm going to pay £3 for a beer from a supermarket, but it does make you think that the fact that the beer prices in the supermarket are the same as up here, and yet the beer prices in the pub are twice as much. What sort of up does it give for the pubs to get people in drinking?
Yeah.
We complain about it up here, But down there, it's like, well, there's no incentive to go to the pub really, because it's just so expensive. So,
and was it any busier than the last time you said it was? Still pretty quiet.
Very busy. No, very busy now.
Busy, yeah.
Back to the norm in that respect.
Yeah.
I mean, I managed to get a seat in the pubs every time, but I'll be honest with you once again, Bruce. Relied on the Wetherspoons. Best range of beers in all the pubs I went in. Once again, down there with your voucher, you're still paying less than £3 a pint. And nice to see you had some local ones. You had Windsor and Eton Brewery, Twickenham Brewery. So, I managed to find some local London beers, paid less than £3.
Very weird. Carry on with the spoons out there. I mean, I say, like the one in Knaresborough at one point before Christmas had 14 real ales on. It was a massive one in Manchester, the one near Oxford Road on Saturday. He had two Rudgate Brewery beers on, Abbott Ale, an IPA, and that was it. Four real ales on. It was like bonkers, really.
You got the Windsor Wetherspoons, Nick, the King and Cast. It's just across from the cap. That's quite nice.
Yes.
Nice match. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, once again they had three local beers on.
Yeah.
That was quiet actually. Windsor was quiet.
Yeah.
But the capital, the city was busy.
Right.
Yeah.
And Bruce, you look like you're on a cup of tea because I know you're trying to get off to watch the Newcastle United match tonight. So
I am actually. Yeah.
You're not on the beer yet.
No.
Well, I'm working through my Thornbridge box, so I'm currently on a Twin Peaks, which is quite nice actually, American Pale Ale, and then I might get onto one of the ones they've just done is a Pondera, which is a collaboration with Firestone Walker, which is quite interesting. Well, that's 6.7% West Coast, so a bit strong. So actually, Bruce, I think you've got most of the highlights because you've been on a few trips and places. So I know you've been up to Geordieland to watch your beloved Magpies. Now they've got a new manager, and they're a bit better, aren't they? They've had a few.
That's about it, innit?
Huge game tonight. But yeah, but the Crown Pasada's back open now. I want to say, none of the famous sandwiches on yet, but they're imminent. But it's in great shape. The Crown Pasada, they've obviously given it just.
Because last time you were up there, it was all closed, wasn't it? Although I think remember you did a picture. There was a delivery outside of barrels and stuff, but it was all locked up and closed up still.
No, it was in fine form, and again, interesting choice of beers. But predominantly, as me and Nick have found out, predominantly dark, strong beers and very little blonde beer in the northeast. I have to say, when we were there, they were playing Watford, and Watford by far the most civilised fans have ever come into the Premier League, and there were a good few of them in there, but all quite elderly gentlemen. Obviously, had a night and combined the trip to the football with all the real it was quite nice talking to him. But yeah, great.
Brooks, it's all the middle classes can afford to travel up from London nowadays, man.
I know, expensive. You're right.
So that's the Crown Pasada, which is not far from the station. It's one of your
5 minutes walk.
Yeah, quite close. And then the other one you pub, which I'd not heard of before, was the Centurion, which I think you said was very nice as well.
Well, rather bizarrely, because we've all been by the Centurion loads and loads of times and never gone in there because you're on back to the station, and someone at work said, "You've not been in there." So at this point, we're looking, we're absolutely staggered by it. So you can see in these pictures, they've got huge stained glass windows. This incredible Victorian tiled etched roof. There's lots of brass in there. It's these huge Roman pillars. It's absolutely stunning. I say spoiled only by the fact they've put this massive screen in it. Now, without that screen, it would undoubtedly be the finest in the country, if not the best in Europe. Just sad thing was, I mean, when I was there, all the roads £3 a pint, but normally they're a lot more than that. But they were trying to shift them because I'm not kidding you. I think 95% of the people drinking all the lagers. But having said that aside, you've got to go see it. It's
so go on. Where is this? If I'm looking at the station, Bruce, now I'm crossing just to the left, is it? All right.
The station, it's towards the left side of the station. And then they've got a little outdoor area. But I say that room is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Network Grill allowed me to put the TV screen up, really.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
I suppose it's like, yeah. And then
that's how they're getting people in it, Boris. They're all drinking lager.
Well, you're right.
There for the football, aren't you?
But yeah.
And then you found some other new pubs, Bruce, in Knaresborough, which again we've mentioned a few times. And it's only a fairly small space. I think I've heard of one of these, but certainly not the one. I think the one you rated was the Half Moon, which
it was fantastic. I mean, normally we used to have a little circuit in Knaresborough, but my wife was convinced as a child. Her granny used to take her to see an old woman who lived in a house in the crag. So we walked the full length of the bank this time, and it actually turns out the house is actually a church. It dates from 1408. It's Our Lady of the Crag Catholic Church. It was part of Ampleforth Abbey. It closed for years, and all the people in Knaresborough have said, well, we should reopen it. So now it's open from April, every Sunday in April from 2 till 4. I'm sure to book seat, but it looks astonishing. It's like a really spooky sign X into the crag. But then more remarkable with me was, well, the Shipton's Inn's reopened. We've all been by loads of times. It's opens and closes, opens and closes, and actually we've never been in. So we went this time. It's just to the most people go to the ships on the driving with the car. And this is the other bridge, the other river crossing. This is just for the pedestrian entrance. I don't believe it's anything to do with the people on the Shiptons, but yes, fantastic pub, really. Big pub, got like a room, sort of like a farmhouse room by one. Real fires, have got a range in there. And most remarkably of all, when you went in there, there's a big old table on the left-hand side, and it's got a little plaque there that said it belonged to Guy Fawkes's family. So yeah,
Bruce, it's a table with a plaque on. where's the provenance?
Well, no, we'll have to. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But I was having what was remarkable was I didn't have a huge choice of rail ales on, because things are getting going again, finding the way. But the food menu looked astonishing. I mean, there were things like sea urchin on the menu and stone baked pheasant casseroles and amazing food for about 12 to £13. Obviously, all cooked from scratch for some of the price you pay in a Nicholson's pub. So definitely recommend Mother Shipton's. And then at the other side of the river, at the crag, the Half Moon, which I wasn't even aware of. So I went in there and a bit of like a hipstery vibe, but really friendly staff, big roaring fire, packed full of people from all ages, and a really fantastic range of beers on. The lads in there really knowledgeable about the beers, and honest to God, this is a lovely, lovely pub. And I was talking about it, and he said, "Have you ever come across the Sunbeam beers?" I said, "Oh no." He said, "Well, it's from a little brewery in Kirkstall," he said. And it actually put me on as a favour because lots of people, the Volvo owners, have all congregating in Knaresborough and going there. One of the blokes said, "Oh, my mate runs a microbrewery, try his beers." So he did, and that absolutely.
Yeah, I've had some beers. They're nice, aren't they?
Yeah,
maybe lighter beers, aren't they? Kind of blonde, more golden blondie beers.
Yeah, I had the IPA, but you sometimes get that really strange. The little chap that did this was so tempered. So definitely worth.
So 2 new pubs there that we need to go and visit. Maybe that's good.
Container for a great sort of pub city now.
Yeah, really. Well, for me, I've been mainly sitting in Mellard's. My kind of most Friday nights have been in Mellard's, and then I have started to go down our hot cellar on a Saturday, which is more of a kind of crafty bar. But Mellard's been good, and again, Nick, they've kept on those 3 hand pumps. It all tends to be bloody Yorkshire beer though, which pleases me. I think they've got Osset on now pretty much every week. It was Butterley this week, and then they've also, I mentioned they've got the what's it called, Crick Brewery ones on as well. So Pentrick's great, Pentrick. So yeah, but been good, but not been too far and about. So I'm looking forward to next week in Yorkshire. So again, a little bit of beer news. There's loads of beer news. I just always do a bit. We might catch up with some more beer. I know Bruce, you've been sending me quite a few. We might try and be a Wetherspoon, Sam Smith's, Brewdog free zone tonight. I don't know if Nick, we've been here. This has been the paper this week. The oldest pub, or what claims to be the oldest pub in England, which is the Old Fighting Cocks in St Albans. Unfortunately, it was struggling, I think, with COVID, and it was closed completely this week. It's going to administration. I did also find out it's actually Mixton Butlers that have the license for this place. Now they're hopeful that it'll reopen. I mean, it'd be a bloody hell of a loss if it didn't reopen.
Oh yeah,
it's a fantastic pub and a real ale kind of venue. It's a little bit out of the way. It's kind of off the kind of main city town centre, whatever St Albans is. It was quite a nice thing. We were in there. I think we ended up sitting in the beer garden around the side as well. I think we started off inside, and then I remember we ended up around the side. It was quite a warm day. But yeah, this is. I mean, again, there's quite a few pubs that I've come across recently that are unfortunately having to close. I think, as we said, the prices and the increase of prices, and of course, even things like energy, gas and electric, that hits pubs as much as it hits everybody else, doesn't it? And your overheads go up, so that's a little bit of a shame. But then another one quite interesting. Obviously, the news at Robinson's Brewery in Stockport, which again is another place we've talked about. They're moving lock, stock, and barrel. They're a £12 million move. They've been in this brewery, what's it called? Unicorn Brewery, right in the middle of Stockport. Been there for 182 years. But they've decided that they are going to move lock, stock, and barrel. They're taking everything out to Brewery. Brewery is, if you know that Stockport M60, it's right on the M60. It's around the corner from the big Tesco's, just past the arches. So it's right on the motorway, which I guess why they're doing it. Yeah. I think currently I read that they've got a bottling plant. They've got the horses. They still have the horses, and they're in another place, and the office is in another place. So they're going to build a brand new state-of-the-art brewery, put everything on one site, including the horses, at this brand new brewery. So fantastic investment. And then that's linked to that. I saw that I mentioned Beartown Brewery. They're in Congleton. They've just posted that they're refitting their brewery. They've just sold all their brewing kit. Going to buy a brand new brewing kit. So again, for some aspects of the pub and beer trade, it did very well with the pandemic.
I read that Robinson had stopped the brewery tours and closed the shop. And I think
that's because they're just going to move out lock, stock, and barrel. I think I don't think it's going to be ready till I 2025 when they reckon it'll be completed and move across the new brewery. They are hoping that
I would think it's stuff like logistics though and practicality, health and safety. You could say it's a shame that magnificent old brewery won't be used anymore. But in terms of having people on site and having taps and having tours and getting vehicles in and out, and the volumes they're going to have to brew to compete with the other big breweries now, like you say, moving out of town, and the site itself, depending on how central it is, they probably won't lose any money by selling that site. If that's what they're going to do.
I don't think they're going to sell it. It says they're in negotiation with Stockport Council. They're probably going to redevelop it as flats, apartments, but also keep them brewing there, and like a heritage centre, possibly with a bar and a leisure thing restaurant. So hopefully, it's quite unique. It's quite a big building, really. And then I don't know if you saw this one, guys. We were in the Staley Bridge buffet bar in December, and there's Bruce and Nick there at the bar for those on YouTube. And it was very busy. We were in there, didn't we? It slightly dampened the joy of being in there. But in January, they were running a crisp butty pairing menu. So I'll perhaps just read some of these out. So you could go along, and I don't know how much you had to pay for them. The Ploughman's was a bacon, wheat crunchy, Quavers and Branston pickle sandwich, and they paired that with Astrid Pale Ale. The seafood special was scampi fries, Seabrook's prawn cocktail and tartare sauce, and that was paired with Lucas Hell's Lager from Thornbridge. The big meaty was Seabrook beefy crisps, Worcestershire sauce French fries, and Marmite. And that was with St. Petersburg. That's with the Thornbridge beer. Hot and spicy was... Oh, these are all Thornbridge beers. Sorry, sorry. I missed the obvious. These are all Thornbridge beers they're doing it with. Hot and spicy was nice and spicy knickknacks, salty dog jalapeno and Jaipur hot sauce with Jaipur, and a Philly cheesesteak, which was T-bone steak roasters, Quavers, and Philadelphia. So that's a good idea. So, and I think you can buy the whole lot. So we practically look out for that one again next year. And then I'm going to come back to this, but I just thought this was in the Morning Advertiser this week. These were the top selling beers of 2021. Not many surprises, really. Number one was Sharp Spoon Bar, obviously Molson Coors these days. Green King IPA was number 2. Landlord was number 3, which is interesting.
I'm
probably the only, one of the few independent breweries still there. London Pride was 4th, Nick, but obviously they're aside these days. Green King Abbott was number 5. Wainwright at 6. Pedigree at 7. St. Austell Tribute, again they're still independent, aren't they? Duckers, Caledonian Duckers, which is Heineken now, and Ruddle's Green King. So Green King kind of, I don't know, swept the board or whatever. Got the drivers' the manufacturers' championship.
Wetherspoons have a huge bearing on.
Well, plus their own pubs. I mean, obviously Green King have got a huge estate, but the interesting one is Dukas. We've talked about Dukas. Dukas hit the scene, hit the ground running. 10, 15 years ago? I can't remember the last time I saw Dukas anywhere in any pub.
No. And that was one of the first.
Still in the top 10.
It's probably the Doom Bar of Scotland, isn't it?
And it was one of the first IPAs. When that new style, like Nick said, came out in the 90s, that was one of the first ones. So anyway, let's crack on with episode 29, which is looking forward and glancing back at our Beer Adventure 21. So I've run through a couple of our adventures that we went on, where we went on live on the road in episode 16. In 19, we met up again in York and Malton. Me and Nick, we went around the Malton, where it wasn't a food festival. It was like the second part of the food festival. You guys had a really good session in Wakefield, didn't you? And Castleford and places. And then I said just before Christmas, we met up on the Trans-Pennine Real Ale Trail. And there's a lovely picture of Nick and Bruce in the Roosters tap room, which I think was that our only brewery this year. I think it wasn't it, in 21. And again, that was a bit weird because that was that June time when again you had to book everywhere, didn't you? You had to kind of pre-book tables and things. Although we could have pre-booked any table in Roosters tap that afternoon because it was, as you can see from the picture, it was pretty quiet. Just some of my highlights. Again, God, it feels ages ago now. I mentioned that I had a couple of trips to Buxton Brewery, who they couldn't of course use their tap; it's too small, so they had a pop-up tap outside the brewery. Luckily, they've got a bit of land outside their brewery, which is on an industrial estate up in the Buxton, with a cracking view, and they put a marquee up. And I had a couple of really good sessions up there actually, and they, street food and stuff. So it was a real, in those kind of horrible days, kind of in late April, early May. It was a great place to go and drink some beer outside, even if they're outside. And I remember, Bruce, I think you were in Thrall. That was one afternoon I was drinking Chip Shop Brawl, which was
a fantastic name for a beer, isn't it? That?
And then obviously, Nick, me and you in the New Malt's been on the regular haunt for you, certainly yourself. And when I've been up in Malton, again, you could drink outside, which was good. And I've got a couple of pictures somewhere where we're up in those the triples that they do. A couple of more pictures here. Again, for those on YouTube, that's Nick and Bruce outside the Mitre in Knaresborough when we were on our way back from our Roosters trip. So we look all right there. Although we had a good afternoon. And then Nick, that's me and you. I think, well, certainly for me, that was one of my first beers after lockdown because we went to Whitby.
And
the Abbey Wharf again was letting you sit outside on their terrace, and it was a cold day, but I can see their beautiful sky. Was that Easter? I think feels like it probably was Easter, wasn't it?
That's when I needed an haircut. So it was during lockdown. There was no hairdressers open. You tell that. It got very cold. Yeah, I
think one of the best sessions we had, guys, was in York. But again, it was very early on. It was just after slightly unlocking. We met at the Shambles Tavern because again we could sit outside, couldn't we, in the market bit there. I think we met you after work, Bruce, didn't we? You were at work, and we had some night we watched the market. Well. Yeah,
and
then we ended up in College Green
to eat all day and started off with 2 pints of Rudgate Mile, didn't I? And got wobbly headed later on. Just over 2 pints of Rudgate.
And then that great thing in College Green where you could buy beer from any of the pubs through the windows, basically, couldn't you? And sit out. So we had some great sessions there, didn't we? And that's the picture of us there, just outside the Minster in the background there, drinking in plastic, unfortunately. But again, I think it was one of those things that kept certainly York people sane, Bruce, wasn't it? Being able to go to one of those places. And obviously, you had the Fox, had a big beer garden. Fox, you win a couple of times as well.
Yeah, we were blessed with the beer gardens, to be honest. It did help a great deal, yeah.
It's hard to think
Spot wasn't overtly full of tourists, either, was it? Which was a good thing.
Well, again, although the second time we met with Bruce, this was a bit later on in the summer. I was taking my lad to watch the rugby. And we met outside the Shambles Pie Shop. And it was quite busy there, wasn't it? Because Harry Potter shop had reopened. So, and me and Bruce, we tried the new House of Trembling Madness on Lendl, which was interesting. So I quite really enjoyed those little trips. And then again, the one for me, and I know Nick, you've been there. I don't think I've taken it back since it's moved. So I think we'll have to book a Bakewell trip in, guys, because again, Thornbridge Brewery is fantastic there. And again, I went a couple of times and had a great time at there. And it's just getting better and better now. That big, huge tap room you can see in the picture at the top there, a huge space, and obviously really good beers as well. So maybe that's something we could try and book in. And then Nick, I know for yourself, Malton Royal Oak has been another old Malton Royal Oak. We've mentioned that a few times on the podcast. Has been one of your regular haunts. And again, Steve, that we know there is developing his beer range, so he's putting more and more cask on. And some good food as well.
4 permanent hand pumps now. Predominantly Yorkshire beers, so and £3.40 a pint, which you can't go wrong with. So
that's a top sandwich. What's in it?
And if you are feeling like that's the Bunny Chow, isn't it? That one.
No, that's called the Gatsby. Now,
the Gatsby, that one, yeah.
Steve spent some of his time in South Africa. So he has two South African. This is a Gatsby, and this uses, it's basically a steak sandwich, 2 fried eggs, chips in there, salad in there, piri-piri sauce. And the bunny chow, for anybody who knows South African cuisine, it's a street curry in a hollowed out bread roll or a bread loaf. Hollow it out and you can have it. Chicken is normally, or you can have a vegetarian version of it. So he has those 2 on there permanent. And once again, if you're going up to Malton looking for a traditional pub food, because unfortunately in Malton, you've got plenty of Indian, Chinese, you name it, they have it, Thai, but to find, decent pub grub, you sometimes struggle. Yeah, so certainly Old Malton Royal Oak is a place to go. Or if you don't want the old pub grub, then as I say, there's a couple of it's like British food but with a twist, steak chips all piled into a sandwich with a couple of eggs as well. It certainly helps soak the beer up.
So that was my little taste, just kind of get us all thinking. And what I asked the guys to do was just think about last year, and again, it's quite hard really this, but just come up with maybe what was the best pub that we individually went to or jointly went to. What was the best beer trip we went on, and was there a beer that sticks out for us as well? So this is our little kind of reflection on the best pubs of 2021. So Bruce, you're going to kick us off, and I think it was just fairly quick for you when you kind of thought about this. Again, you talked about it a lot, didn't you? The Cricketers in Brighton was your choice of your pub of 21.
It was. Cricketers was a fantastic pub. I mean, ironically, it's not a hidden gem, a secret. It's best known pub in Brighton, and of course, it's really the best known pubs. Are so fantastic. But the Cricket is absolutely, the atmosphere in there is amazing. It's a very, very well kept pub. It's plush, it's comfortable. The dark, the lighting's spot on. Got a very small bar. They predominantly stock Harvey's beers, although it was they were sold out. And we were there. Harvey's going to produce enough beer. And I'm saying that old garage to the left, I've actually gone into there for dining. But it's, I say, for such a popular pub, I mean, it's deserted there, but on most days in summer, the outside drinking area is packed. It's full of atmosphere. Of course, it's got the connection because Graham Greene, of course, who wrote Brighton Rock, he pretty much lived in this pub as well. So it kind of oozes history. And I say what I like, it's an accessible pub. It's smack bang in the centre of the lanes. Everybody knows it. It's not a big secret, but I say it was a fantastic pub. And I have to say the day, one night I was there, there was a lot of lads from who met once a month from an army regiment, all ages, has done this for donkey's years. They were there having a great time, young and old, and a lot of lost partners, and I'll meet up. And then at the same upstairs in the function room, someone asked his wife to marry him. She said yes, and he was buying the entire pub drink. So it was cracking. Yeah.
You can't beat that, can you?
You can't, no.
What do you have, Bruce? A pint of Guinness?
No, I had sold out of Harvey's. It was impossible to get a pint. Harvey's couldn't produce enough beer. So I did have a pint, and then of course all these lads from the army go, no, we'll have a pint and a chaser, make it a large one. Congratulations. So it was a great night. Yeah. Well, yeah, Cricketers Arms, I say.
Cricketers Arms in Brighton. Yeah, and that's somewhere where again I need to go to. I've not been to Brighton. I've only been through it and in stock. So it's another beer place to go to. For me, again, kind of thought about this and just thinking back, I think the place I enjoyed drinking the most was and it's not quite right, is it? The Whitby Brewery tap. Because again, if I'm thinking back to, and again, we've got to think back that we had it even harder here because we were in bloody tier 4 for October onwards, all the way through until literally June. So I was gagging for a pint. And again, I managed to get to Whitby Easter, and the brewery had redone their courtyard. And Nick, I know we queued a couple of times to get into this. Well, not get in. We queued a couple of times to sit outside on the benches. Wow. But I just drinking beer out in the open. It's a cracking view overlooking the Abbey, and the beer's not bad as well. And a bit like you said, Bruce, although it was outside, it was apart from a couple of dog issues. But outside of that, the most of the time we were there, lovely people just enjoying the beer, families, old people, young people, every mix really. So I think for me, that was my highlight, drinking beer in Whitby Brewery's outdoor area in what was quite a nice Easter, and then May, and then June, and then throughout the year, really, whenever we went to Whitby, we ended up at the brewery. So that's my pub of 21 was was Whitby Brewery, which again is slightly cheap, but just look back. And then Nick, I think you've already mentioned this one for you. You said it was the Old Malton Royal Oak. Was your pub of 21?
Yeah, I mean that's the pub that I consider to be my local. And you know, if it's your local, you keep going back, don't you? So, and I say Steve's up the beers now. You know, fortunately, it's a nice walk up there, up by the river, through what used to the old Roman camp used to be, along the Deventio River and through Lady Spring Woods, where you see the springs coming up. Lots of wildlife. That's always incentive for to go out and have a walk, and also currently the end of the stick is top end of Old Malton there, the village. We've got the pub there. So a pint, 2 pints, and once again, nice outdoor, decent sized garden out the back there. So I found myself sitting outside more times than sitting in. Bit of safety aspect, but you know, just being able to enjoy. He does the paddles there. So as I say, when he used to have 3 real ales on, he used to try, you know, a third of each and then decide which my favourite was to have another pint, then head back home again. But now he's got 4. It's a bit of a dilemma. I keep trying to persuade him to get those paddles. So you get 4 thirds on. Yeah. So you can try them all. But there we are.
And again, if you get into Malton, say you came on the train, it's a fair walk. What, about 25 minutes if you're going to walk to?
Yeah, about that from the station. Yeah.
If you're on the A64, it's the Eden Camp turn. It's about 2 minutes from the A64. If you're driving towards, say, Scarborough, the coastline that goes past it, so you could get the bus up there, couldn't you?
Yeah.
You go into get a bus to Pickering or a bus to Whitby. It would go up past this pub. So well worth digging out. Okay, so beers. Again, this is slightly different scoring. So again, people know that I'm on Untapped. So these were the Untapped top beers. It says 21, but I'm not going to go through all of them. Guinness was number 1 on Untapped, and that was if I was going to put that story in. Have you seen that Guinness have increased their sales by 30% this in the last 12 months? And
they're opening a Guinness brewery in Covent Garden.
Yeah, one in every 10 pints in London's a pint of Guinness now. And people, it's, you know, that was probably the one beer you can't quite reproduce at home. I know you got those surge cans and things, but having a good pint of Guinness. So Heineken was number 2 on Untapped with 106,000 logins. Punk IPA Brewdog was number 3. Corona Extra was number 4. IPA Lagunitas Brewing was number 5. Miller Lite was 6. Beer Moretti was 7. Some very strange triple Caramelia Brewery, in Belgium. Cellar was number 10, and there was a lager. So again, obviously, Untapped is international, but it's interesting that you know, they're mainly.
I was going to say that surprises me, because surely if you go on an app like Untapped, surely you're caring what you're drinking, or you want other people to be interested in what you're drinking. And if all you're drinking is Guinness or Stella,
that way,
what's the point of being on the what's the point of being on the app?
Yeah.
I mean, surely it's just to share little known beers and
beers. It's to record your beers, and therefore, you know, fortunately, a lot of places you do go. It's certainly going to a restaurant, you know, any chain restaurant. This is your choice, isn't it? I mean, but if I've still get Guinness recently, I've been a couple of places where I've stopped over and gone in, and I've been Doom Bar, and I'm going after Guinness, and they've had, we haven't got any Guinness, so it's a bit of a nightmare. And then we mentioned that
you wouldn't record it though, would you?
Well, yeah, if you're into drinking. I remember this is international, so it could be people from around the world who are putting in their Corona Extra. So, you know, there you go. Anyway, my beers, I found this quite hard, actually. So I've actually gone for 3, but I will pick one at the end. So my 3 beers of 21 were, obviously, I went to Jersey and Liberation Brewery in Jersey, which is part of the Buckham brewing kind of expansion now. And they brew something called Herm Gold, which is quite like a golden beer, and that was really, really nice. So that was one of my choices. Did get it? I think I got it in cask a couple of times. It was mainly in bottles. You found it. I managed to get an Allagash White, which is one of the beers that you're supposed to drink before you die. And this was in my days of getting the box of beer delivered to your front doorstep because the pubs weren't open. But my untapped beer of the year, and the one that I enjoyed, was Plum Porter, which obviously is my local Titanic brew, cracking brew, really nice, smooth, Guinnessy like, I guess, in a bit. Did we have one of those? Did we crack that one I got, Nick? The
your vintage premium one, and I would agree with you that that's the dark beer that I see most often around the country.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't popular,
in Manchester on Saturday, Nick, and Titanic Plum Porter was everywhere.
So if it wasn't liked and it wasn't popular, you wouldn't see it all over the place. So obviously, it's the one that people do like,
and it's pretty consistent. You never get bad luck, so it's pretty good. Yeah, that is good. Bruce, you were still thinking this, so I've just got a blank screen on one of our notes here. So you weren't sure.
And I think, but not so much last year, but as from me, going back 12 months, funny enough, that Sunbeam IPA was stunning beer. I just want to try more of those Sunbeam beers. I'm off to Leeds on Saturday, actually. I might go see if the Garden Gate's open. I'm going to try and source one. That was just a fantastic revelation, really. It was so subtle, and the that IPA dry vault, it was fantastic. But I have to say, I was in Manchester on Saturday. Talking about Guinness, when we got there, it was bloody chucking it down. My friend was waiting. He goes, I'm at Circus Tavern. It's closed. Let's go to Grey Horse. That's closed. He goes, it's pissing down. So he knows Manchester a bit. He said, I'll tell you what, he said, we'll go to O'Shea's on Princess Street. He says, you will people, but anyway, so we've got the tram to Piccadilly Gardens, went down there. And this is a big, sort of a nondescript city pub with a bit of Irish branding to it. But it's really famous in Manchester because on a Sunday afternoon during the week, they have like really good Irish music there, Irish bands around the country go there. And he said, you've got to try the Guinness. And I'll tell you what, by a country mile, it was the best Guinness I've ever had in England. It's sort of towards the top of Rusholme Road, but it's very 5 minutes off Great Portland Street. But I tell you what, the Guinness was sublime. You would have actually thought you were in Dublin. I've never been able to say that again.
Yeah.
So I say that Guinness was worth a mention. And I also have to say, I was drinking, we went to Rain, one of the new John Lee's pubs had taken over an old building in the bottom floor. But I was drinking their Manchester Pale Ale, and bloody hell, that was
but that's good. Yeah,
that was absolutely great. So I wasn't expecting great things to be in Manchester, but say inadvertently through 200 stops, we on a Sunday afternoon apparently O'Shea's, they only serve breakfast, but all the sausages and bacon are from Clonakilty. It's all locally sourced. Loads of people have gone for breakfast and a pint of Guinness, and apparently I bet it's fantastic in there on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, sounds good. I think Manchester is maybe we've talked about that as another potential trip for us. If I can persuade us all to go to the Brewdog Hotel, and I'll use my my Brewdog share to get a discount. But that sounds good. So yeah, again, interesting choice. And then Nick, I think you've had this fairly local recently, haven't you, Nick? So your choice was Yorkshire beer, Rudgate.
I thought you only asked for one, so
we did, but we all cheated.
Yeah. my point about this one is I never used to really like Rudgate beers. Obviously, their famous one was the mild, which we talked about a bit earlier on, because it's deceptive for a mild because it's quite strong. But this is the last time I was in Knaresborough, Bruce, went in the Wetherspoons there, and they had 3 Rudgates on. They had the Batlax, the Jorvik, and what are the other ones on? And once again, with my Wetherspoons vouchers, it was £1.49 a pint for me, and they were all on top form. Yeah, Rudgate Brewery isn't too far from Knaresborough. But in thinking of, value for money for a decent beer, that was my choice. I'd also got anything from one of my other favourite breweries now, which is Great Newsom. So Frothingham's Best is still one of my favourite sort of session beers. But yeah, that's £1.49 for a pint of decent ale in Wetherspoons. That's why I won't knock Wetherspoons.
Good stuff. So interesting choices there. Right, trip at 21 then. So again, I've got a few more picks on here. This is me. So I think our best beer trip, and it's slightly cheating because I think this was the first day, wasn't it? The first day we met up in York. Again, as I said, this was quite early on in the unlocking phase. You could drink inside now, but you had to pre-book and do all the track and trace stuff. So I think Nick, me and you, I met you in York. We went off to the Hop and had a couple of pints in the Hop window. We then went off to Brew York. I think you had to stay outside of Brew York, didn't we, in those days? And we sat in the beer garden there. We then went across and met Bruce in the Shambles Tavern and had some beers, nice beer. I think you had a Rudgate beer that day, didn't you? I
had 2 pints of Rudgate Mile. That's what sent me do Lally.
And then we went across to the new Thornbridge Pivar, the pub on the market there. And we were not allowed to sit upstairs. We got put in a booth. And so that's when Nicholas started to rant and rave a little bit. And then we ended up, back in, I think we were using the Snickerway with Bruce to buy beers in York on that trip. And as you can see from the pictures on those it was a cool day, but it was a lovely blue sky, kind of one of those fresh early summer days, wasn't it? And it was just good to get together again. That was the first time we'd kind of met up for quite a while. And then that's the day after that we went to Knaresborough. I went off to Harrogate, Knaresborough, and Roosters Brewery. So for me, that was our best trip, really, because it was just getting back together again and drinking our first beers together. And again, it was still a bit surreal in that you were kind of corralled in, it was table service, etc. But it was good. Bruce, your trip of 21 was one of your more recent ones that you and Nick went on. You picked one I wasn't there. Nice.
It was. We went to Wakefield. Neither of us had surprised to being there because in our mid-50s, you'd think we'd done it, wouldn't you? And people kept telling me what a great trip it was. And oh man, we weren't disappointed. Oh, were we, Nick? Wakefield Town.
I haven't submitted anything to Mike for this one. I forgot it off the list, but I was going to agree with you, Bruce. Yeah. So you say your bit and I'll follow up, mate.
Yeah, well, that's Nick's there. You both, without connecting with talking to each other, you both chose the same trip, which again, and I wasn't there. So maybe that's not going to take a need of that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
They're just some fantastic pubs. It's quite a compact place to get around, isn't it? I mean, to be fair, Wakefield does need a bit of investment, doesn't it, Nick? And this trying to turn into an artsy town seems to be going too well, does it? But I have to say, there were some stunning pubs. Fernandez Brewery Tap. Anyone interested in beer? They've got someone there going around buying old pub signs, getting them restored, weren't they, Nick? And pub, the old lanterns had the brewery signs on. They used to get above front doors. There's a fantastic collection of those. So atmospheric. I love to be there at night. The Henry Boone's, that famous pub up there. Again, bare floorboards, loads of great beers on. Very good pricing, wasn't it, Nick?
Yeah. Ironically, with the Fernandez, Bruce, if you remember, we didn't actually have their beers. They had such a range on their own tap that their own beers were like stuck to one end, and you didn't really notice them. You sort of walked past them. So I think I had an aniseed stout in there, didn't I, Bruce?
You did. Everton have just scored against Newcastle.
Go on the Blues.
But no, that's what I thought about that day, Bruce. Is the diverse range of buildings that we went in. I mean, we went in two that you would call very, very traditional pubs. There was the Black Rock, which is probably the last traditional pub on the end of that infamous run. Wakefield. There's a street. Is it West Street? That's infamous. That's a bit like Micklegate in York. So that's the last traditional pub on there. So we went in that one. Obviously, Henry Boone's is a very traditional pub as well. It used to be the tap for the Clark's Brewery. There was the new place that we went in first. Trying to remember the name of that one where we had that decent pint of Oakham Citra.
Oh, Citra, yeah, that was a nice pub, yeah. Then we went to the little one, the fantastic view of the viaduct, didn't we? We saw the trains.
Harry's Bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we went to the Red Shed, which is an institution in Wakefield behind the massive great new super shopping precinct. Yeah. But it's an old World War I army hut that is now the Labour Party's clubhouse. And I mean, we went in there, didn't we, Bruce?
Yeah.
But the other good thing Wakefield is that, you know, every place where we went is about a 10-minute walk.
Yeah.
So you're getting a breather, but you're not walking for miles. And there's just a lovely, lovely circuit from the station, do the circuit, and come back again.
That's right. Then on the way back, we stopped at that the pub in Castleford, where all the beers served from the wood, isn't it?
From the wood, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, good trip.
Yeah, if you enjoy your beer and pubs, and we never got the hop either, did we? Fantastic place, Wakefield.
Oh, there were still 2 or 3 others in Wakefield that we could have done that were on the list. But I think we stuck to about 6 or 7, didn't we?
We did. Even found decent.
Which again is about our ideal number, isn't it? So that's, if you want to listen back to that was episode 26.
Butcher shop as well.
We did, yes.
Unlike Huddersfield and when we were over there.
The Merry England for a lovely road. So I said that was episode 26. If people do want to listen back to that.
Newcastle equalised. Mason Holgate scored.
Right, so Bruce might be off to the pub then. So come on, let's crack on. Let's get this done then.
Most unknown goal as well. Yeah.
So 2022. Quick thoughts about 22, guys. If you're thinking, any thoughts about things that we'd like to do, pubs you'd like to visit?
I'm closely keeping an eye on the local papers for the £10 Northern Rail trip.
Me too. Yeah.
Up in the north of England, but twice you get the chance to travel all day on Northern Rail trains for £10. And I think there's now a colder ale crawl, which they're trying to market as alternative to Transparent. That sounds good. But also, I quite like watching those chaps who do the train and plane journeys on YouTube. There was a fellow there called Dylan's Travel Reports. I put my hand around and watch him. But it's very educational. He's recently gone the Hope Valley line from Sheffield to Manchester over the peaks. Now that really looks a good trip out because you get to do Sheffield, a couple of stops in the peaks on the way, end up in Manchester. What a cracking out that would be for a tenner. I think that's definitely one to look at. But I think I must admit I only scratch the surface of Portsmouth, but that's a fantastic beer down at Portsmouth. We'd love to go Portsmouth. And possibly we should maybe try and get a trip north of the border, I feel.
Nicholas, any plans?
Sheffield,
yeah.
Maybe be able to tie in with Matlock Buxton.
Bakewell,
Bakewell, yeah.
Bakewell, yeah, that'd be good.
I have to do the bus that way, but Sheffield, Bakewell.
Right, well, I've written down, I want to go to Banker's Cat in Leeds at some point, gents, because I think getting good reports about the Banker's Cat, which again is another Thornbridge and Pevar song, isn't it? I've not yet been to the parcel yard. I saw somebody put some pics on the other day, and it does look fantastic. Do you get there this time, Nick, or not time? No.
In fact, there's a Wetherspoons
the parcel yard in King's Cross.
Oh yeah, it's good the parcel yard. Yeah.
But once again, you're paying £5-6 for a pint of London Pride. Go to the Spoons in St Pancras.
Yeah.
Nice.
Go to Houston Tap. Go to Houston Tap, and you can pay what you want in there.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, you're even closer.
Yeah.
You know, St Pancras basically took us 2 minutes to get the platform, and once again, drinking at half the price. Got something to eat in there as well. So.
And then we've mentioned the trick for me is, I'll mention again, Melton Mowbray. I think we've got to think about Melton Mowbray. Yeah. And I've been looking at their Pork Pie Fest again, Pie Fest this year. Provisionally, it's down for August, so we might have to look at that. And obviously mentioned they do that in the cattle market where around Corner Brewing's based as well. So that's one for me. And then I think we've talked about this before, though, but I think the other one is the kind of dream pub back in Malton. And I've been looking, I think the Studio Bar, Nick, have they been doing a bit more renovation on the Studio Bar, which is attached to the Milton rooms? I noticed it reopened again, I think, last week.
All right.
And Brass Castle were doing a tap take. Well, no, what do they call it? They call it a tap house burnout. But we said if Bad Seed, Brass Castle, and Yorkshire Pudding Beer got together and maybe put their beers in that Studio Bar, that would be fantastic, wouldn't it, in Malton?
Oh, he got mentioned in London Drinker. Managed to pick up 2 editions of London Drinker, and Yorkshire Pudding Beer got mentioned in there. So his name's been spread national. But I was speaking to somebody the other day about Milton Rooms, and they said they thought it had been closed, but I say it's probably just time of year. So what's in they're relying on volunteers though. So they were managing to open it sort of like between 5 and 8, sort of Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Hey, you never know, I might go and volunteer a couple of hours up there. And,
I think it was open last Saturday. I said Brass Castle in a tap house burnout, and it was refurb in there. That's something else. And just to throw this random one in, gents, came across this today. And I've been to Hereford, but mainly playing rugby. But I've never heard about this one. But this is just a guy called Drinking Tom on Twitter. Visited the quite frankly ridiculous cool Victory Inn in Hereford. Have you ever seen a bar that's quite literally an old chip? And again, if you're not on YouTube, but there is a picture that I put on there, and it literally is the Victory kind of in this pub, and the bar kind of in the middle of it with the barmaid kind of peeping out behind, not quite cannons, but there were like quite a few handbooks in there. So that's. And he said a Ludlow goal. That's another cracking beer. Is that Ludlow goal? It's a lovely pint, that is. So So if we get down to that end of the kind of West Midlands or West Midlands, the Victory Bar in Hereford looks a fantastic place to go to. And I must mention as well, one of the guys that follows Mapping Man. He does a few blogs about really good, worth reading actually. And he's been to Yeovil. And I think on the way down, I think he was listening to our episode where we talked about the worst pub in the country, and we'd share some of those horrible things. and the blog is worth reading because he's been trying to find some pubs in Yeovil, and they were fairly stinkers. So again, just a shout out to Mappy Man really as well. So we are hoping to get together this weekend, as I mentioned. So I think our plan, Nick, is we might have a quick soiree around Tadcaster. Which we've mentioned quite a few times on the podcast, which obviously is a big brewing capital. Pubs look a bit thin on the ground at the moment. I know, Bruce, you mentioned that some of the Sam Smith pubs are still closed because they haven't got managers. But we've got a couple lined up, and then hopefully we'll probably meet up Bruce there, or more likely meet up in York. So I will take the stuff, and we'll do a few little podcast recordings. So hopefully next one will be a little bit of a catch up again, Malt Travel on the road. And then I think we need a planning session.
£6.90 for Sam Smith's bottle beers in their pubs. Oh. I mean, that's almost a price. That's a price of a bottle of wine in Wetherspoons, is that, isn't it? Yeah. £6.90 for a bottle of beer.
No. So that's the plan. And then I think it's a fairly open canvas, really, for 2022. I think we've got a few ideas. We've still got a couple of breweries that we've got potentially lined up to have a chat to. I've been chatting to one or two other guys who've done podcasts about maybe doing a bit of collaboration. We'll try and plan a couple of trips, as I mentioned there. Sheffield probably will definitely be one. We'll try and get together and sort a few of the bits and pieces out. But again, if anybody's got any ideas about podcast themes or anything you'd like to come and contribute, give us a shout. If there are any other towns that we should be thinking about planning, again, we're quite happy to do a virtual plan out with guys. Although drinking for real is much better, really. So that's the plan. So hopefully see you guys at the weekend. So ching ching, happy drinking. Let me find a bit of music again and we'll play us out. And then hopefully we'll see you in a week or so's time.